Welcome, everyone, to the Insurance Perspectives podcast presented by HawkSoft. This is part one of our series on Sembley. On today's show, we have Dean Bowen and Joe Ems. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Been looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am really looking forward to learning more about Sembley. I've heard great things, so I am looking forward to hearing more directly from Joe. Dean Bowen will receive a full introduction on part two. As a sneak peek, Patriotic Insurance Group is based out of New York, and they've been HawkSoft customers for 5 years. Joe Ems is the co-founder and director of sales at Sembley. Joe got his career in insurance started with State Farm as an account executive and worked his way up to sales team manager. After his time at State Farm, he became an agency leader for Combined, a Chubb company. In 2004, he became a co-founder and director of sales at Sembley. Joe is a proud native of Philadelphia, and his go-to cheesesteak spot in Philly is D'Alessandro's. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, good. Joe, thank you for being here. To get us started, why don't you give us the elevator pitch for Sembley?
What we wanted to do with Sembley, it was simple, right? We wanted to simplify the process of dealing with your ACORD forms, dealing with supplemental applications, a process that anyone who's filled out a package of forms knows it's been extremely disjointed for as long as they've been around. So what we wanted to do was create something that uses that single source of truth to eliminate duplicate entry between those, because realistically, you're always going to have duplicate questions, and make something that you can actually share questions with your clients instead of doing that back and forth. Maybe you're on the phone with them, you write something down on a piece of paper, you got to go find it, copy it into your forms. So we built a tool that's built on a single source of truth and intake, where you can simply fill them out within your system, share the questions with your clients, and then over time, we've built more into it, more AI tools, more smart tools that can pull data in and populate it where it needs to go. But that is the quick pitch there.
Talk a little bit about like your involvement. How do you go from being in the insurance space to all of a sudden there's this idea? I mean, you see this problem, want to have a solution for it. So talk a little bit about what led you to this. And I know you're a co-founder, so yeah, how was this whole thing originated?
Yeah. So I've been here since early days. I cannot take any credit for coding or anything like that. If you asked me to write a line of code for $1 billion, I probably couldn't do it for you. But luckily, we have a great team. Jeremy, our CEO and kind of our lead founder, he had solved a similar issue in the legal space. He was coming out of that and wanted to find an industry with a similar problem, which led him to insurance and specifically to ACORD forms and sup apps. I joined the company as our domain expert, somebody who knows this industry and knows where the problems lie. And we just came in and started building from there. And it's funny, I talk to a lot of people about going from the insurance world to the insure tech world. It is different. Going from, especially like a company like Chubb that they've been around forever, it's a huge institution, and then coming into Sembley and just kind of building something from scratch. It has its similarities and it has its differences. I mean, it's kind of like we were starting our own scratch agency and building up from day one and creating relationships and trying to find problems and solve them and trying to find the right people who we could solve those problems for. So it's been quite the ride, but I've loved every minute of it.
What would you say, is one feature that really garners the interest for agents to Sembley?
The big ticket one I would say is our document AI tool, which is a newer tool that we've built over the past 6-9 months about. It actually wasn't out quite yet when I was on this podcast last year at the Hug event, but that's a tool that will allow you to take documentation that you have in reference to the client. So maybe their deck page, maybe a loss run, an SOV, and you can drop that into Sembley. Our document AI will now read through that and find data that can be used on your intakes, on your ACORD forms, extract that and pull that in. So let's say maybe you have a deck page with 5 vehicles and a handful of drivers on there. If you drop that in, well, we're going to pull the information from there that we can, but we're we're going to get, we're going to eliminate the need to actually manually have your deck page on one screen and typing in that information on the other on an ACORD form.
So that it will read the deck page and then convert that over to a quote sheet or an application.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. That's huge.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that wasn't part of the original, part of the original offerings.
No, that's been a tool that we rolled that out, I think, June of last year, and we've just continued to improve it from there.
Okay. Give me an example or two of how many agents are utilizing your forms.
Yeah, I think where we sit right now is I think there's about 400 different agencies across the country that are using Sembley. And we've really been up and running for about 2 years now. So things kind of caught fire, and we've had a lot of happy agencies come on and save a lot of time using our system over the past few years.
Yeah. Let's say I send out an ACORD form to a client and he fills it out, you get it back. What are systems that would integrate with to avoid that double entry?
First and foremost, a big one is HawkSoft. You have the ability to integrate with HawkSoft, and it is a two-way integration that is also newer since the last time I was on the podcast.
Okay.
Where now we can both pull information from HawkSoft into Sembley, but we can also create new accounts back in HawkSoft or push data back over into HawkSoft. And then with CRMs like AgencyZoom, another one where we can push data into AgencyZoom, create accounts back over there. And then another one that I've noticed a lot of the HawkSoft agencies I work with that are using Sembley in conjunction with it is Canopy Connect. We have a lot of agencies that are both using Sembley, Canopy Connect, and HawkSoft, and they're able to create those data pulls on when someone goes in, they enter their information on Canopy, and all that data you gather in Canopy can just be pulled right into Sembley as well. So that's a great package of tools there, working with HawkSoft, Sembley, and Canopy. They work so well together.
Do you know specifically if it will in HawkSoft, and it sounds like it will, but I'm just going to ask, create a customer file?
Yeah. So like create a new customer within the system? Yeah. Yes, it will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it will create a new customer. It will shoot it out to the CRM, and then probably also flood over to a quick rating program like an EasyLinks or a PL Rater.
So there are ways, I think, through some Zapier integrations that we can do that. One of the focuses that we have and something we're developing right now is the ability to push directly from Sembley into those raters. And we actually even want to take that a step further and try to push that data directly into carrier portals as well. So you might have to, because raters, sometimes you'll push the data in there and then you're still typing a lot of data back into that carrier website. So that's something that we're looking to bridge the gap on and push that data directly over into a carrier website as well. So that's something that might be coming in the near future.
Well, that's huge. All that is huge because you already referenced avoiding double entry. And it's hard to, with all these systems that we use and kind of duct tape together. I don't know of another program or platform that you can do that'll push into HawkSoft, that'll go into AgencyZoom or your CRM, and to go into your quick rater. So you have, you've collected the data one time and you're able to push it to all the systems that you use on a regular basis. That is what can make us more efficient. I mean, that's something that really, really moves the needle. So that's really interesting. And then especially, and I'm sorry, did you say that it can bridge to company sites?
That's in the work.
Okay.
That works. So that's something that we're hoping to release within possibly by the time this podcast is out. So that's something that will be coming in the near future.
Talk a little bit about the kind of the evolution from where Sembley first started, the offerings that you had, which was just, was it 2024? Is that right?
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. Yeah.
It's 2 years ago. So the evolution from just 2 years ago to now and how the company has changed and evolved.
Yeah, there's been a lot of change. I mean, and part of that comes with the advancement of AI and the advancement of tech over the past few years. It's just being able to build a tool has never been easier with what we have. So, and I imagine it will continue to get easier and easier as AI gets better. So there's been a lot of change on that end. Also a lot of change just listening to the agents. So when we build a new feature, we're only going to build a feature that we have seen a lot of demand from our agents, because no one knows better than the agents on what's actually needed. So a few of the things that we've really seen change, especially recently, was the customizable side of our software. So the core offering, what we really started out with was the ability to create an intake for your ACORD forms, for your supplemental applications, share questions with the clients, have them fill them out, and then agents fill out what they need to fill out. Well, over time, we started having people asking us, hey, well, can we do our custom forms? Can I do my quote sheet instead of having it sitting on my desk? So we built a tool called Custom Intakes, where you're able to build really whatever you want. We call it custom intakes for a reason, because it's fully customizable. And the information that you gather on those custom intakes, whether you're embedding it on your website, you're filling it out internally while you're on the phone with a prospect, or you're sharing those intakes with a client, that information will bridge directly into your ACORD forms and sub apps. So it all loops back together to that single source of data entry and not having to copy information over and over again. That custom intakes is a piece that really took on a life of its own as more and more agents started requesting more on that end. So we've added more question types into there. We've added tons of more questions from the question bank that you can pull from. We've created the ability to create an embed code that you can embed that directly onto your agency site as that get a quote area. We've built in conditional logic that you can loop in there, some customization on how it's actually going to look. You can put colors and embed logos. You can put videos on there too. So that's one piece that really started to grow over, I'd say, even the past 6 months. There's been tremendous growth on that and tremendous implementation so fast too. There's so many agencies we see who are now embedding that into their website, and that's where they're doing their intake. And the great part about it is, if I'm an agent and I put that intake on my website and I'm using HawkSoft, well, great, here's my lead. I can just send that back over into HawkSoft and start my workflows there. Or if I'm using AgencyZoom, I can have that go into AgencyZoom, and now it's going to go into a system of automations built there. So that customizable intake, that web intake piece of it has really taken on a life of its own and grown much faster than we thought it ever would.
And that's something that I can certainly speak to on a practical level, that we've started using this more and more for our intakes. And really what I like about it, two primary parts. One, you build the intake once and it's ready to either be used yourself or to be client facing immediately. You can send the link to people, they can use it, you can do it yourself, and it goes to the same place, which is great. The other one is that, unlike other intake solutions we've tried before that just kind of spit out a PDF and then it's up to you to kind of build the Zapier integrations and decide how you want things to flow. For us, we use HawkSoft, we use AgencyZoom, we use them for different things, but we were able to very easily tailor this intake process already to what was currently working for us. And I don't even think it took a Zapier to make that work. So it was very adjustable, very easy for us to integrate, and most importantly, easy to train our team members on, because they could understand what was happening.
We've talked a little bit about how much you've evolved in just 2 years. And I think for all of, all the insurtechs, they have to continue to look to the future and adapt and evolve. Otherwise you won't survive, I don't think. What sorts of things, might be on your roadmap or things you're considering for the future, for future offerings?
Yeah, I think one of the big things that we want to continue to build within is that idea of eliminating duplicate entry.
Yeah.
And one of the features that a lot of people have been asking about is creating proposals. So within Sembley, you're ideally going to have a lot of the information you're going to need for a proposal. So I think one thing that you might see us rolling out in the future is the ability to auto create a proposal based off of what you have in Sembley. And of course, we'll loop some AI in there to lighten the load on what the agent's going to have to do, but make some customizations on that side as well. Certainly what I brought up before, but I think a real hot ticket is going to be being able to get data from Sembley into a carrier website or into a rater, and that's on the horizon for us. As mentioned, that might be available within the span of this being edited and by the time it comes out. So that might already be available by the time that the agents are listening to this. So those are a couple of things that I would say on the horizon. And then internally, some things that might not be as flashy, but we want to add some more tracking tools and custom tracking tools within the system so that you can more carefully track the workflows and the submissions that you create, where they're at, moving different stages and statuses, having different columns that you can customize within the system. That way you have a much more customized tracking to where you're at with things, or different data points that you want to key in on certain accounts. So there's going to be more coming on that end as well. That's something we'll slowly start to roll out more and more over the next few months here. But there's a lot of exciting things, and it's tough for me to pin it down to just a few things right now, because next month, who knows what happens with AI, and maybe there's some fantastic tool that we haven't even thought of yet, and people are going to start bringing it up, and that'll be out.
Changing gears a little bit, data ownership and protection is very important to HawkSoft.
Yeah.
And it's something they take very seriously with their partners. How does Sembley approach data ownership with regard to our customers?
Yeah, no, this is always a very important question to ask, I think, for any software that anyone is using, whether this is something you're using for your agency or something you're using just at home. Sembley, personally, the data is owned by the agencies. It's not our data. We're not using that data for anything else than just having it in the system and readily available for the agents who are using these tools. So in terms of that data ownership, that is 100% agency owned, and that data is not going anywhere either. So it's not like you have any risk of that information getting out. But I think this is such an important question that needs to continue to be asked as people evaluate tools.
Working with I think insurance agents and insurance agencies can sometimes be challenging. What would you say is the hardest part working with insurance agencies?
Finding somebody with an open schedule.
Yeah.
No, I think I mean that was half joking, but also true.
No. Yeah.
No, I think one of the things about not even just insurance agencies, but the industry at large, is it's an ever-changing industry. Things are always changing. Carriers are always changing. Carrier forms are always changing. The needs of agencies are changing, which provides a unique challenge to us to keep up with that. As you said, if you don't evolve, then you kind of fall into irrelevancy. But I think that being able to constantly adapt to these changes and provide something that is going to be of value to our agents, it definitely puts some work on our shoulders, and it's a load we're happy to bear. But it can definitely it keeps things interesting.
Yeah. I didn't think about that. There has been so many different application questions in the last year, and all of a sudden we'll just see a new question pop up. And so I imagine you have to adapt to that and put those on your forms, or, I don't know what that process looks like, but it's an ever changing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd imagine that the demand is high for what agents want and are looking for. So you can't satisfy everybody. So, I mean, all you can do is, it's obviously important, how you communicate it and what's there. And I imagine the more you grow, the more it's in demand. So it's, that's would be difficult.
Yeah, that is probably one of the biggest workloads that we have, is making sure our library of forms is up to date. We have all the apps everyone's going to need. We have the apps that are the most current versions of those apps. Sometimes we'll add an application for an agency, and then 2 weeks later, a new app came out. Now we got to get that one in there, and it's a challenge, because you have your massive carriers that are going to be used nationwide, but then you also have carriers that, there's a carrier that I recently heard of. They write for 2 counties in New Jersey, and we had to add a few of their forms into the system. So it's one of those things that we're probably going to never end adding new forms in, but that's it comes with the territory.
I think that speaks so highly of your group to be able to accommodate a request like that handles 2 counties in New Jersey. I mean, really, that says that you're listening, you care, and you're trying to take care of your clients. And that speaks volumes, because there's a lot of companies out there would say, "Oh, we're not doing that. Sorry, we can't get to that." The fact that you're going above and beyond, that means a lot.
Yeah, I mean, listen, in the end of the day, we want this system to work not just for most of the agencies, but for every agency that we can make it work for. And like you said, you can't make everybody happy, but we do what we can to make sure that we're providing the best product to people. And if that means that we need to add a couple of applications that maybe 2% of our user base are ever going to use, that's worth it to us, just because we want to make sure that regardless of where you're at or what carriers you're writing with, you're going to be able to get that value that you need out of Sembley.
Yeah. What's the best part about working with insurance agencies?
Best part about working with insurance agencies, I'll tell you, sometimes I'll speak to an agency who maybe they are dipping their toes into the world of tech for the first time and kind of showing them the system. And they go, "Oh my God, I can't believe I've been doing my ACORD forms like this for this long." So I think just being able to help improve a process that I think everybody dreads, that process of dealing with your ACORD forms, dealing with the duplicate entry, getting everything all synced up, having to re-key that data in. It's cheesy, but seriously, being able to genuinely make a difference in an agency and see that effect is really cool. I do a lot of the client facing work in the company, so I get to see it firsthand a lot, and it really is cool hearing how excited people get when they see this.
And I think your forms, it's a direct help. It's an immediate help. And that's clear. Look, I'm not being paid to say that, but I can just imagine, because I know the duplicate entry that we go through, and the difficulty to get this data to all the different programs. So you definitely have a problem that's being solved. How specifically does Sembley work with HawkSoft? You touched on it a little bit, but talk about all the ways that it works directly with the HawkSoft program.
Yeah, I mean, so first and foremost, we're able to pull your clients from HawkSoft into Sembley, so you can get those accounts directly pulled into the system. You're able to also pull data over from HawkSoft as well. So not just that basic profile data like their name and their address and phone number, but we're going to be able to pull your drivers, your vehicles, your policies, your claims, all that data from HawkSoft over into our system to start populating into your applications. And then once everything is done, you're going to be able to actually send your forms back over into HawkSoft and save those files as a log, your signed documents, your ACORDs and your apps. But we're also utilizing that HawkSoft importer to push data back from Sembley over into HawkSoft. So if you get a vehicle, property, things like that, we can send those back over into HawkSoft to have those saved within the system, just so you don't have to do the manual entry there. So those are the ways that we're interacting with HawkSoft right now, and people have been loving it. It's been a pretty good response in terms of what we've been able to accomplish.
I can certainly second that it goes well. I mean, I use this specific integration essentially every day, and it has been phenomenal. Because we really prioritize having our data in HawkSoft be as good as possible. And we have run into times where various aggregation sources, things that do a similar function, it won't completely blow up the data, but it will remove a lot of the structure from it. Where when I put things into Sembley, they translate over accurately, whether it's a $400 workers' comp policy, or even, Joe, I don't know if I've told you about this. When we initially purchased it, I was put in charge of stress testing the data movement. And I put a statement of values for I think it was a $23 million HPC plant I was working on insuring. Whole bunch of stuff, covered it like all over the place, and it coded in perfectly. Being able to just trust that the work we put in on the back end to make sure our HawkSoft is solid actually translates into the apps has been pivotal, and it's been very helpful for me and for my agency.
Dean, can you touch a little bit on specifically workflows that you're using on a daily basis with these two?
Use one example from this morning. So we had somebody call in last week. They were looking to insure a building. They're an experienced realtor, so they didn't do a normal intake. They just sent us the list of the information we knew we'd need via email. I took that, put it into HawkSoft as usual, and then I can go into Sembley, put that client ID in, and it's there. So I was able to take that even rather unstructured data. I had to structure it into HawkSoft, which is a manual process, but when it's in an email, it is what it is. But from there, I could get right back on the normal track of our normal process of pulling the ACORDs, getting the supplemental apps out, sending them out, and then putting them right back in the HawkSoft. Really what it provides for me is obviously, ideally, it will always be Canopy Connect to Sembley to HawkSoft, and that works great. But even when that chain is broken and there's a bit more of a non-traditional intake process, you can get right back on track immediately just by putting their client ID in, and then it populates the forms as normal. So it is very helpful, and it saves me a ton of time, because when I started out, I took one look at an ACORD form and I think I cried a little bit. But pretty quickly, I was introduced to this, and since then, it hasn't been a concern. It's just having ACORDs for every account I write is just standard practice for me now, and it doesn't add any time. It's just nice to have.
Yeah. Yeah, it's huge. I think that's a good place to close this one out. Thank you both for being here and sharing.